Hi, I'm Dr. Asha Priyanka, your public health dentist, and the topic today is tests of significance and hypothesis testing. Today we're going to try and understand something that sounds very complicated, but honestly, this is just answering a simple question. Is this result real or is it by chance? That's it. So, what are we trying to do here? Whenever we do a study, we compare something most of the time. So, for example, let's say we're comparing fluoride versus non-fluoride, or urban versus rural children, or we're seeing the difference between smoking and non-smokers. After comparing, we see a difference. Obviously, we'll see a difference. Now, the question is this difference actually real, or did it happen randomly due to some other meaning? Tests of significance will help you decide, is there a real difference or is it a chance difference? All right? Now, the starting point before doing any test, we start with something called a hypothesis. A hypothesis is like your prediction, what you think is going to happen. In this, we have two types. One is null hypothesis, and that is your default assumption. Like, it says there is no difference. If you've compared two groups and you think null hypothesis means no difference, nothing is happening, everything is equal between the two groups. For example, fluoride has no effect on dental caries. Okay, that would be your null hypothesis. And then we have something opposing that called the alternate hypothesis. This is just the opposite. It says that there is a difference. Same example, if we take fluoride reduces dental caries. Understood? It's usually either one of the two. It's either what you are assuming is correct, there is a difference, or there is no difference when you are comparing between two sets. Okay? Now, the key idea that you should remember is that we always start a study assuming that there is a difference, and then we try to prove it wrong. All right? You get either your result, you either get the fact that, oh, your assumption was correct or your assumption was wrong. That's usually in any study when you compare two things. The next concept you need to know is level of significance, or alpha. Now we decide how much error are we willing to accept. Now understand that error will definitely happen. The most common values that we use are either 0.05, that is 5%, or 0.01, which is 1%. So if I choose, say, 0.05, it means that I am okay with a 5% chance of being wrong about my assumption. It means there is a 5% chance that the result happened just by chance. Okay? Now comes something called the p-value. This is the heart of the topic. The p-value will tell you how likely your result happened by chance. Now we've tried to understand whether, has it happened by chance or not. The p-value will tell you how likely it has happened by chance. So if you have a smaller p-value, it means there is a less chance of you being wrong, which means your result was more real. Okay. The interpretation for this goes like this. Remember this. If P is less than 0.05, it means that it is significant. That means we reject our null hypothesis. And if P is more than 0.05%, it means that our value is not significant and we have to accept our alternate hypothesis. Suppose you compare two groups and get a p-value of 0.03. What does this actually mean? It means that only 3% chance is there that this result is random. So you say that this is significant. This test that you did and the result that you got is significant. So you reject your null hypothesis, which said that there is no difference because you got a significant value. And you are telling that you are trying to say that yes, there was a difference. See, this is the difference. Okay. Now comes the decision flow. Let's try and put things together here. First, we state our hypothesis and our null hypothesis and our alternate hypothesis. And then we choose a significance level, that is how much error we are willing to let go of. Next, what we do is we do the test. We get a p-value and we compare it with our alpha. Then we decide if it's significant or not, and hence we accept or reject our hypothesis. This is the flow in which the steps will go when you're trying to decide about your hypothesis. So in one of the steps, I said, do a test. Did you get the doubt of what test to do? I really hope you did. A lot of students will memorize this. You don't have to. It's very easy. You can remember the logic. Here, we have some tests of significance. It means simple. We test whether that value that we got is significant or not. Remember the logic here. What type of data do you have and how many groups? So if you have normal data, when data is normal, like in the normal curve, you use a t-test, which compares between two groups. For example, again, fluoride versus no fluoride. And then there is the z-test. It's the same idea, but for a large sample. Another test is an ANOVA test. Where would you use this? If you want to compare more than two groups. If there is, say, not only rural versus urban, but you want to test rural versus urban versus semi-urban, then you would use ANOVA. These were our parametric tests. That's when our data falls under the normal curve. But when our data is skewed or it's not numeric, then what tests do we do? It's called non-parametric tests. The first one is chi-square test. This is for categorical data, like we've mentioned before, gender versus caries presence. And then we have Mann, Whitney or Wilcoxon or Kruskal Wallis test. These are all alternatives to the t-test and the ANOVA that we saw in our parametric tests. It's the same concept, but with data that is skewed. That's it. So first, if you know what kind of data you have, you can choose which test you need to do. Now there is a concept called errors in our hypothesis testing. This is very important and very easy when you understand it. Obviously, some errors will happen and you told yourself that the alpha are errors. You're going to see how much you will allow, how much error you're okay to allow, right? But how do you get that amount? How do you know what is actually true? You find out simply like this. Type 1 error is when you're rejecting your null hypothesis when it is actually true. So you say there is a difference, but actually there is no difference between the data. Like the same example, you conclude that fluoride works, but actually it doesn't. That is type 1 error. Then comes type 2 error or beta error. This is when you accept your null hypothesis when it is actually false. So you say that there is no difference, but there is actually a difference there. For example, you miss the fact that fluoride works. That will be your type 2 error. And then there is another important word in statistics. It's called the power of a test. Now, what is this power? It is the ability to detect a real difference. The formula for power is 1 minus beta. Higher power means a better study. Okay, so now we've learned about all of this, all of these words. Now, where do we apply them in dentistry? You might think. First up, clinical trials. Like I said, if you're using fluoride versus, say, non-fluoride or a placebo, you would need this. If we are trying to do any community studies like rural versus urban, like I mentioned, it would be applied. And in epidemiology, where like tobacco versus oral cancer, if you want to know if there's a the relationship there is real or not, then also you would need this. So at the end of the day, the entire topic is just trying to tell you just answer one question. Is my result real or is it by chance? And once you understand this, everything becomes much easier. Okay, let's do an example, okay? There is a study and you get a p-value of 0.07. Tell me, is it significant or not? Do you accept or reject the null hypothesis? And one more, which error is more dangerous in public health? Type 1 or type 2? Now let's also take a look at an MCQ and a flashcard from this topic. The null hypothesis states that A, there is a difference between groups. B, there is no difference between groups. C, the study is significant. D, the sample size is adequate. Answer is B, there is no difference between the groups. How is p-value interpreted in hypothesis testing? If it's less than 0.05, it means that it is statistically significant and you can reject your null hypothesis. If the p-value is more than 0.05, then it is not significant, so you accept your null hypothesis. Okay, that's it for this topic. I'll see you soon with another one.